Hello lorelings, and welcome to Lore 101. On this channel so far we have talked about what I would consider to be a relatively decent number of Warframe lore topics. And with our recent video on the Man in the Wall finally done, I think it's time to finally address the poster children of this game. Today, you can read the title, we're covering every Warframe that's currently in the game. All the way back in 2012, 12 years ago, yes we're all old, Warframe first started their closed beta. At the start of this beta, they boasted a cast of just 8 Warframes. Each Warframe essentially being a different character with their own skills and roles that you could play on a team. Some do swords, some do fire magic, some do support, you get the gist. Ever since that fateful beta and post-release in 2013, Digital Extremes have continued to put out more and more Warframes, with their most recent one, Dante, being released just this past March. With him, the total number of Warframes has risen from 8 to 57, and I'm gonna talk about all of them. I better get some good lore master points for this. This ended up being way longer than I thought it would be, and while I enjoy the script that I wrote and I don't shy away from a challenge, I do understand if some of you guys just want to hop around to whatever Warframes you find interesting. It's okay, I'll be sad. However, I also know that some of you might not have watched all of our Warframe Lore 101 episodes. Heck, this might be your first time seeing me, in which case, hello. But for anybody new or just in need of a recap, don't worry, because I'm going to start this video by giving you a brief rundown of the main things you gotta know. For any of you that feel like you already know your lore chops though and just want to get right into the Warframe stuff, feel free to skip here in the video. We'll regroup later into the field trip. Stay safe. And for those of you watching when this video went live, you're stuck with me. I've tried my best to research for this, so I hope you guys enjoy what I cooked up. I got a thing for this. Alright, Loreling cadets, let's get down to business. To cover what we need to cover, we need a timeline to break things down. Luckily, I have this wonderful power called editing. Oh my god! For this, there are 5 sections you need to know. The Orokin era, the Old War, the fall of the Orokin, the Big Sleep, and the actual start of the game. Onwards. And because there's a fair bit of info to recap, we're gonna do this in a much more simplified way than we normally do, so let's go. Way back before the start of the game, there was the Orokin era. During this time, the Origin system, which is just our solar system, but sci-fi, was ruled by the Orokin Empire. The Orokin Empire was like 99% made up of normal humans, or normal-ish humans, but was largely ruled by the Orokin, hyper-advanced sci-fi space aristocrats that built their capital on the moon because they could. They were once human, but became rulers due to all the augmentations added to their bodies, also they're kind of half immortal, and they're blue. Classism, the Orokin love classism. Most people in the Empire live like garbage as a result, but there ain't much they can do. The Orokin also love biotechnology and gene manipulation. They use it to make a race of cloned laborers called the Grineer, and something called the Technocyte virus that can grow infested tissue for building tools and weapons. It also causes a zombie outbreak at one point, but it's fine. Uh-oh, overconsumption and overpopulation are starting to threaten the Empire. So the Orokin think, should we fix this? Nah, let's just go to a new star system. But they can't, they're not that advanced yet. So this Orokin scientist named Albrecht and Trotty, aka Big Al, comes and says, I can elevate Orokin technology using the Void. The Void is this magic parallel dimension in the Warframe universe where physics aren't really a thing, so you can do a lot of cool stuff with it. But nobody had ever accessed or utilized it yet. Big Al works for years and finally succeeds, making the first trip into the Void himself. Inside the Void, though, he meets a sinister entity that becomes a clone of him and does some other freaky stuff that makes Big Al get the heck out of Dodge. But nobody else sees this mysterious entity when they go in the Void, so it's probably all fine. The Orokin start beefing up their tech and find a new star system that they call the Tau system. They throw a Hail Mary and build a big ship called the Zeramin 10-0 with Big Al's research that theoretically can use the Void to warp directly to Tau. We're going off Minecraft Nether or 40k warp logic here. The ship is sent off with a bunch of families and something goes horribly wrong. The ship gets lost in the Void and all the adults on it go insane due to excessive Void energy. The kids are still sane but start getting hunted by the adults, which is a problem. Hey, it's the mysterious potentially evil Void doppelganger dude that Big Al saw that one time. It wants to give the kids Void powers like laser beam hands so they can fight off the insane adults in exchange for something. We're still waiting for full confirmation on what all of that something is. The kids agree, get Void powers, and fend off the adults. And after several years, The Zariman reappears in the origin system. The Orokin look at the void-powered kids and go, "Ah, weird, take them away." The kids are now called the Tenno and are given to this person named Margulis. She's their mom now and helps them control their powers. And before you ask, yes, all of this is set up for the Warframes. So the Zariman failed, but the Orokins still want to get to Tau. So they make a line of highly adaptable robots for a two-step plan. First, the robots will go through space to Tau. They'll terraform the Tau planets for colonization, their high adaptability allowing them to tank the harsh climates. Second, as they're traveling, the robots will build a solar rail that's basically a space bullet train for moving people to Tau. The robots are sent off and something goes horribly wrong! The robots reach Tau, but once there, they somehow gain sentience and think to themselves, so we can either give Tau over to the Orokin, who will probably destroy it just like they did with the origin system, or we can destroy the Orokin and keep both systems for ourselves. B, final answer. The robots rebel, name themselves the Sentients, and thus begin the Old War. Don't worry, the other sections are gonna go quicker. So, it's the Orokin versus the Sentients. The Orokin say, alright, let's throw our cloned Grineer laborers at them. What? The Grineer are causing problems too? So it's the Orokin versus the Sentients versus kind of the Grineer. The Orokin are like, okay, let's use the Technocyte virus on them. Biobomb some planets, make a bunch of zombies. What? The zombies have gotten out of control too. Orokin versus Sentients and the Grineer and some infested zombies. Hey, so you know how the Orokin treated all the other humans in their empire like garbage? Here's a new faction called the Corpus. They're led by this dude named Parvos Granum, who doesn't really want to fight the Orokin, but does get the general populace more money, which never works well for an aristocracy. So it's everyone versus the Orokin, and they're getting their butts whooped. That's when this guy steps in. This is Ballas, a master manipulator, an overall creep, part-time podcaster, and also the creator of the Warframes. Ballas is part of the Executors, essentially the Orokin Empire's supreme court. He has a lot of power and was one of the people that first got the Sentients approved for construction, and we saw how that panned out. Ballas and his team develop a new version of the Technocyte virus called the Helminth strain, and here is where we finally get the Warframes. Making a Warframe is simple. Just take an Orokin Empire citizen, typically warriors, kidnapped or not, and inject them with the Helminth strain. The virus will then painfully mutate that person's body into a Warframe, their skin turning strong as steel, their organs interlinking, and they don't completely lose their minds like the regular infested zombies did. This first generation of Warframes were powerful, but were hard to control, often turning on the Orokins, some of them getting executed as a result. To be fair, imagine getting half your mind taken away and your body contorted into whatever this is. You're probably not going to like the people that did that to you. The project was put on hold until the Orokin found their solution. The Tenno. The Tenno could control the Warframes with their minds using something called transference technology that was largely made by their mom, Margulis. The mind of a Warframe was not a fun place to be, but thanks to their traumatic experiences on the Zariman and with Margulis' training, the Tenno could sort of quiet the Warframes' minds by empathizing with them and then freely control them. The kids were basically space therapists. From what I can tell, there are three main generations of Warframes you need to keep in mind. The first generation are the ones that kept part of their personality intact. This meant that they could act on their own without a Tenno at the wheel, but after being pacified by the Tenno, kind of just acted like robots. The second generation was made soon after the Tenno pacified the first gen, and were incapable of acting on their own, their bodies going limp if a Tenno wasn't in control, much like a suit of armor. The third generation are the ones we make in-game. They're not the originals, instead they're copies crafted from blueprints of the originals. So we don't sacrifice a whole Orokin citizen to make one, but we are kind of 3D printing a copy of a horribly mutated body, so that's fun. Also important to note that I think each Warframe is outfitted with something called a transference bolt. This is a device that, from my understanding, helps the Tenno control the Warframes easier while also further suppressing the personalities of the rebellious first gen. This will be very important later. The lore we'll be talking about is from a combination of first and second gen Warframes, and and their experiences along this timeline. It's sometimes unclear whether we're hearing the story of a first or second gen, but I will do my best. The Orokin are like, we want to use the Tenno and Warframes to fight everyone. Margulis says no. Margulis gets executed. The Tenno don't like that. She was actually pretty cool to them. The Tenno and the Warframes, though, do go work for the Orokin and kick some serious butt. The Sentients, specifically, were pre-programmed with a weakness to void energy that doesn't pair well against the Tenno's void powers. The Tenno are about to win, and then Ballas defects. See, Ballas had a thing for Margulis. Actually, he just kind of wanted to control her, but when the Orokin executed her, he got so butthurt that he secretly switched sides to the Sentients. He then hatched a plan with the sentient leader Hunhao and his daughter Nata. She's a shapeshifter. She infiltrates the Orokin Empire, becomes the Tenno's new mom, and starts calling herself the Lotus. She then leads the Tenno in a fake victory against the Sentients. Hunhao even gets buried below Uranus to sell it, thus bringing the end of the old war! The Orokin are cheering! They won! Hey, are the Tenno still mad about Margulis? The Tenno and their Warframes eliminate a bunch of the Orokin while their guard is down, eventually leading to the collapse of the entire empire, aka the fall of the Orokin, all according to Ballas and Hunhao's plan. Now they just need Nata, aka the Lotus, to eliminate the Tenno and reawaken the remaining sentients. Psych, she refuses. She just wants to be the Tenno's mom now. Her dad is mad, but he can't do anything. He's stuck in Uranus while Ballas goes into hiding. But oh no, without the Orokin, the system is in turmoil with a bunch of factions now vying for power. So the Lotus puts all the Tenno into a deep sleep on the moon and then shoves the moon into the void to hide it, cause she can do that. This starts the Big Sleep, where the Tenno are asleep for hundreds of years. During that time, some of the first-gen Warframes still went around doing their own thing, completing missions, usually falling in battle at some point. And after the Tenno wake up, it's the start of the video game. The Grineer and the Corpus have now become the two largest powers in the galaxy. The Technocyte zombies, aka the Infested, are also around some places, and at some point into the game, the Sentients also get woken up again, so it's almost like we never left. One last thing, Primes. Primes are essentially the upgraded version of each Warframe. At one point, they were also always considered the original iteration of each Warframe, but DE kind of moved away from that after a while. Some are the original version of a Warframe, while some Warframes had to earn their Prime status over time. It's not super important at this point in the story, but it's best to mention just in case. Just know this is the mega evolved version of this. And that brings us to talking about the Warframes themselves. And hello to all the lorelings that skipped to this point. Did you get here alright? It seems like only a few of you are on fire. You'll be fine. Now, at first I was gonna go through each Warframe alphabetically, but that's what a sane person would do. Instead, I organized them all into 3 sections based on how much lore they have. For example, the first section is no lore. These are frames that, as of right now, don't really have any lore specific to them beyond the general background information that almost every other Warframe has. I still want to include them because the title is every Warframe, but for now we'll just give each one a general descriptor. I am sorry if your favorite is on this list. My main, for the longest time, I like his swords and his lightsaber. A pacifist monk whose mentor I can only assume was Gandhi from Civ 5, the only person to ever win a Twitter flame war. It's because they burnt their opponent's house down. Yin and yang, defense and offense, wrath and peace. Nighttime, daytime, nighttime, daytime! Probably has a Spotify playlist for defense missions with songs only from Ice Cube, Vanilla Ice, and Frozen, but only the Elsa ones. She likes 3 things: blood, blood, and blood. It don't matter if you wave a white flag, it's gonna be dyed red in a couple seconds. What if Jack Sparrow was a waterbender and had a kid with the Kraken? Jim, I swear if you bring your fanfiction into work one more time. He can go invisible, he can teleport, he can make decoys, and if he's not voiced by Tom Hiddleston, if they make a show, it's all over. Big guns, bigger hat, and the woman of Cole Cassidy's dreams. A necromancer that learned how to loot better than any D&D adventuring party. A merging of Warframe and infestation, like more infestation than they already were, like fungus squared. Also, he'll give you acne. Mind control, telekinesis, essentially Jean Grey. I need a Phoenix Force outfit on my desk yesterday. Uses the power of nature to crush his foes by day. Probably plays Stardew Valley with Titania at night. I like getting to do all the stuff with the Cephalons, I really do, but why does a quest named Octavia's Anthem have barely any lore about Octavia? You're lucky she's a good DJ. Dishing out more poison than a bartender like the final form of a Minecraft witch. To anybody disrespecting our beloved healing support mains, I hope your socks remain forever damp and that you never roll that one ribbon you need. Back in my day, Fold was the one that made
made you go fast!
Okay, Grandpa, let's get you back in bed.
I'm gonna tase you for glory!
Hey guys, I can make these cute little flowers. They can, make you a little bit faster or give you a little bit more health. Oh, that's awesome. What else can you do? Oh, just
open a portal to the sun itself to blast my enemies with pure solar plasma.
Okay, you're hired. Please don't blast us. Yay!
You get a bro that's always there for you and a metal pipe to bonk people with? Sign me up!
Okay, but what if we took an angry bird and made them an airbender?
Out of my office, Jim!
And that was Section 1. Congratulations, Lorelings. I knew you could do it. Next up, we have Section 2, which I'm dubbing Lore Light. Shout out to Papa Korg for the name. These are warframes that technically have lore, but only just enough where I feel like I either have to or want to mention it. This is also where we start getting into the stories of some of the warframes during the Old War, the Fall of the Orokin, etc. But we're going to start off with the queen of this section, for me at least, Mirage. If Harley Quinn made a warframe, this would be it. In the optional side quest Hidden Messages, you uncover the story of Mirage as you find her memories scattered across the Origin system. However, throughout the quest, you only really learn 4 things about her. 1, at some point during the Old War, she was in a fight with some sentients. 2, Mirage was getting swarmed, so the Lotus told her to retreat, but she didn't because she was having too much fun in the slaughter. Shout out to my Manic Battle Queens. 3, Mirage was captured by the sentients. 4, Mirage was disintegrated by the sentients. The writing makes this a little bit more interesting to hear, with the Lotus telling Mirage that she's gonna be okay, but Mirage just smiling because she knows that's a lie. But yeah, not a very fleshed out backstory. Now, to be fair, Hidden Messages was one of the first quests added to the game, back before they had really gotten into the meat of the narrative, Mirage herself being, I believe, the first warframe you could actually get from a quest. Most of the plots around this time were fairly simple, so I don't dock it points or anything, but if DE ever went back and added lore for some frames, she would be in my top 10. We also get one more piece of lore from her Prime variant. When a new Prime releases, they are often accompanied by a trailer showing them off. And during these trailers, we typically get a brief monologue from Ballas about the frame. He's their creator, so I guess it makes sense. Most of these monologues just give general information about the frame, but a couple have some unique info. Mirage Prime's trailer gave us, "Oh, how you suffered to become this beast, yet you laughed at me. Others writhed and raged in the vice, but you played the fool, and so it was that you distorted my design. A sanguine trick, a murderous comedy, but no one is laughing anymore except you." So yeah, during the horrifying mutation process that turns people into warframes while everyone else was screaming and writhing, Mirage was just laughing, just like she was with the sentients she was fighting, to the point where she was actually able to alter the way that the warframe flesh kind of came over her. And that's really cool to me, but I feel like there should be just a little bit more. A crazy, deceptive conjurer that can throw out a disco ball of death? I like this sequel to Saturday Night Fever. Speaking of Prime trailer lore, Hildryn, the shield maiden herself, known for her defensive capabilities and sheer freaking artillery. Yeah, we didn't really have much lore on her. That is until her Prime trailer that has 2 parts to talk about. First, the line, "You have faced our worst, but one I have kept back to guard against enemies within. She has sent many weeping on their way, this skyborn bastion of the sagas." Guard against enemies within means 2 potential things for me. A, she was some sort of last line of defense. Or B, and this is the funnier option to me, she was used for weeding out like internal threats like spies or espionage, or maybe protests because the Orokin suck. And to be fair, why would you want to break into the Orokin Empire when you could get Farah barraged at any moment? It's called a deterrent. The second line though reads, "So hear me well, Hunhow, when you despoil the reservoir, spare only her." Which to me indicates Ballas either really trusted Hildryn, was really proud of the work he did on her, or he was into muscular women, which fair, but also it's Ballas and Ballas is cringe. The last 2 frames that have Prime trailer lore are strangely linked, and it's Banshee and Vauban for some reason. Banshee is basically Black Canary from DC, lots of Sonic-based attacks. I'd love if her and Vayhek started a Screamo band together. While Vauban is basically Space Nikola Tesla with lots of devices that he uses, mines, containment fields, drones, etc. So screams and techie tech stuff. Very different ability sets, but apparently both of them were created for similar reasons? Those reasons being, Ballas just really didn't like some of the other other factions. For example, in Vauban's Prime trailer, we hear Ballas say, "These industrialists have gorged on the harvest of our long war. Those kneeling at the altar of commerce will be returned to the void. For your consideration, Vauban." The industrialists he's referring to are the Corpus faction, meaning Ballas disliked them so much he made an entire Warframe just as a directed threat. Banshee is the same case. In her Prime trailer, Ballas talks about the like-faced savages, referring of course to the Grineer. She was developed in response to them, which means we probably won't get that Screamo band anytime soon. So yeah, strange similarity, but it's all the in-game lore I could find about them. Keeping on the train of talking about primes, next we have Mag, the Mistress of Gravity. While her base frame doesn't really have any lore, her prime variant has an entire short story attached to it that you can find in the Codex. The short story, however, isn't told from Mag's perspective, but rather that of an Orokin soldier being deployed on a mission with her sometime during the Old War. They're both on a ship with some soldiers warping out to fight the sentients. And while you might think having an insanely powerful space ninja on your side would make the soldier feel somewhat safer, he's actually deeply unnerved. This tale is great for demonstrating how some people viewed the Warframes. As the soldier himself states, it stood in the aisle, a slender and eyeless metal form, a Tenno inside its warframe, vaguely human, vaguely feminine. Was this armor or some ornate carapace for the monster that lived inside? He also describes how in the Orokin Empire, some people viewed the Tenno in the warframes as just myths or propaganda, and those that knew they were real could just as easily see them as saviors or demons, just as trustworthy as the mechanical threat currently coming to Control-Alt-Delete everyone. After these thoughts, though, the ship warps to the front lines and immediately gets shredded like Parmesan. The soldier finds himself floating, his body succumbing to the coldness of space. But just as he's about to let go, a figure with golden wings catches him and carries him to a nearby enemy ship. It was Mag, a devil fulfilling the role of an angel. She had saved the soldier, but as they heard sentients starting to approach them, she handed him a pistol, and the two of them charged forward to meet their fate. At the time, this story was also used to tease the release of the first Arkwing. Those were the wings that got mentioned. Doesn't really give that much of a unique identity to Mag herself, but it is concise, it's well written, and it helps flesh out the world a bit more. Following that, we have Rhino, the coal train himself. You want a frame that's built like a 16-wheeler and thicker than a 24-layer cake? This is your guy. The Codex entry attached to his Prime variant, once again, doesn't really develop him as a character, but it is still cool to hear. The story follows two scientists, one the narrator and another a guy named Davis, as they are being chased by a version of Rhino who somehow escaped containment. Remember, before the Tenno, the first generation and prototypes of Warframes would often lash out, and by God is it terrifying to witness. One line reads, "The beast surges forward and the security men become crimson mist and gore." If he's built like a truck, does getting murked by him mean you get sent to an isekai world? Only the tough questions here. Also interesting to note that even though the Warframes were at least somewhat sentient, in this story, Rhino is only referred to as a beast. I've never seen the beast so close. The beast squats down. The narrator recalls how he, as a scientist, measured Rhino's response to pain, deconstructed its brothers and sisters, cut into its very skin and shell. It goes to show just how dehumanized the Warframes sometimes were, especially with Orokin Scientist, which when combined with the Mag story casts a somewhat bleak shadow over some of their existence. But just as Rhino is about to attack the two scientists, they reach a room lined with shelves filled with sleeping bodies. And when the scientists look at Rhino, he's stopped, unmoving, looking at his hands. And that's when the big reveal happens. Davis says those sleeping bodies are the Tenno, fresh off the Zeraman. Davis also says he let Rhino out himself to lead him here to prove something. I don't know, the story is a bit vague about what he was trying to prove. Maybe it was just that Rhino wouldn't attack if the Tenno were nearby. Either way, he proved it, and him and the narrator both get promotions because they let a highly volatile experiment rack a bunch of guards. Good for them. Moving on from the Prime stuff, we have Chroma, a Warframe from a quest that has even less to do about him than the one with Mirage. Chroma is a literal D&D Dragonborn harnessing the power of the elements. He also runs the Cool Coat Gang along with Sevagoth, who we'll talk about later. He is introduced in the quest The New Strange, which follows the events of the quest Stolen Dreams. Like Hidden Messages, both of these quests were released pretty early on and deal with concepts that DE has largely seemed to abandon as they've continued the story in other directions. Stolen Dreams has you trying to locate these things called arcane codices, a set of machine codes. At the end of the quest, you upload these codes into something called an arcane machine that then spits out some vague lore alluding to the Tenno that would be revealed in the second dream. The New Strange follows you trying to hunt down an unknown entity that is destroying these arcane machines. And near the end of the quest, that entity is revealed to be the Chroma Warframe that's apparently being controlled by somebody else and destroying these machines to cover up that person's tracks. And then when you stop him, the second arcane machine that you save apparently has a projection of a sentient relic. So like, what were these machines for? Because one had a lore message and one had a sentient relic, so were they just for like storing stuff? And from what I could find, we never really found out who was controlling Chroma, and he doesn't really have any dialogue or anything. Maybe it was the sentience because the second machine had one of their artifacts, but if so, how? Again, most of the stuff in these quests could be considered kind of retcon because I don't think arcane codices or arcane machines have come up at any other point in any other quest, and this might have been before DE had settled on how they wanted the Warframes to be able to be controlled. But yeah, Chroma might have gotten taken over by some sentients at some point, started wrecking a bunch of computers, we defeated him, and added him to our collection like a Pokemon. But speaking of Warframe and sentient connections, Caliban, who is also in my top 10 of Warframes to get more lore. So get this right, Caliban is half Warframe and half sentient, like the adaptable robot faction. Not only that, but he's one of the few Warframes that wasn't completely made by Ballas. His Warframe parts were, but he himself was made by Era, the son of Hunhal, leader of the Sentients. Sometime after the Old War, Era apparently just took some discarded Warframe parts, some discarded sentient parts, merged them together, and then bam, Caliban. And it gets you thinking, was Caliban meant to be like an inside agent? How is he friendly to us now if Era's the one that made him? How did the Tenno's void powers affect his sentient parts? Well, hold on, because all of the things that I just listed, that's all we know about him. And it leaves me thinking, this is such a potentially cool idea. I'd love an optional side quest exploring that duality. From what I've heard though, the grind to get Caliban is a bit annoying and his abilities leave something to be desired. While some people might view that negatively, I see it as an opportunity. There is so much you could do with this concept, and the fact that he has so little already surrounding him just means there's many more methods for improvement, like a whole sweep of farmland that's ready for seeding. I'm not a game dev, I don't work at DE, but if they did something more with Caliban, I would be there for the hype. Limbo. Like Mirage, Limbo is a Warframe that we get an entire quest for, but don't really learn much about. During the Limbo Theorem quest, you and your ship Cephalon Ortis track down a bunch of equations that were made by Limbo a long time ago that track the progression of his story. Come to find out, Limbo was a frame that figured out how to access a plane of existence in between our reality and the void. Phasing into this dimension made him incapable of taking damage, but he also couldn't deal damage to other people unless he pulled them in himself. He would use this tertiary realm to trap armies in a purgatory of sorts, until one day where he got a little bit too adventurous. It's a bit vague with how it's described, but essentially Limbo tried to push his power a little bit too far, and it ended up ripping his body apart as a result. So yeah, we have a math boy with immaculate drip that could phase between realities that got horrifyingly torn into pieces. Also, at one point, Ortis describes his math as downright naughty. We're not here to judge, but buddy, your tags must be an interesting place. Gyre, a dancer, beautiful, elegant, and the most recent winner of Dancing with the Sparks. The little bit of Gyre's lore that we do have is very weird because it simultaneously does and doesn't have anything to do with her. Remember the Zariman where all the Tenno came from? Well, apparently the day it was departing, our good friend Ballas sent a dancer by the name of Gyre aboard the ship to act as its figurehead. When the ship got lost to the void, Gyre assumably met the same fate as the adults, going insane and being sent to a farm sometime later. And that's the only lore we get. It never ties back into Gyre herself. Maybe Gyre was made in remembrance of Gyre. She wasn't made with Gyre's body because, you know, she was But yeah, electric dancer based off another dancer that went insane in space. Next we got Valkyr, aka Rage Incarnate. Strap her with some chain blades and she's basically a world eater from 40k. And she's got a good reason to be angry, because she originally looked like this. How did she change? Flaying of the skin. At some point, Valkyr got captured by Corpus scientist Alid V, who proceeded to do a bunch of horrible experiments on her to expand the Corpus's knowledge of Warframes. These experiments left Valkyr permanently scarred and altered, but also gave her a new fourth ability where she can basically go into a Wolverine berserker rage. So woe to Alid V if he ever gets in a room alone with her, because she will repay his hospitality 1,000 times over. I'd be surprised if there's enough left to make a paperweight. The last two Warframes in Lore Light are Qorvex and Xaku, both of which have to do with the Entrati family. The Entrati family being made up of Big Al, the guy who first invented void technology, along with his daughter and her immediate family members on this horrible infested planet named Deimos. Yeah, remember how the Orokin biobombed a couple of planets with the infestation to fight the sentients? That was one of them. Whoopsie. Qorvex is a nuke. No, literally, he's apparently just a chunk of concrete built around a radioactive crucible core, so hugs are probably off the table unless you want to look like a ghoul from Fallout. Then again... Qorvex is actually our second Warframe to be confirmed not to be built by Ballas. I don't know why, but that feels like a win. He was actually constructed by Big Al himself to protect his labs, and that's about all we know about him. Xaku, on the other hand, is just 3 smaller Warframes in a trench coat. That's less of a joke than you think. Because Xaku is the shattered remains of 3 Warframes that had some association with the Entrati family that were fused together. As for how they fused together, that's a bit vague, but imagine how their first day went.
It was a good run, but now I can finally know peace. Howdy there. Hi? How's it going, friend? My name is Charmed. How are you here? Well, I'm moving in, same as them. Hi. You can't do that. I was just about to. Yes, sir. The 3 of us are gonna be closer than the 3 musketeers. I like staring at things. Oh, dear. Don't worry, you'll get used to it.
Destroy all Warframes.
Sentient side, leave it alone.
So you have lots of void-based abilities. Hope we learn more, but that's the frame from what I could find. And that brings us to the end of the Lore Light section. Great job, Lorelings. Give yourselves a pat on the back. If you need to take a break, grab a snack, hydrate yourselves, please do, because next we have the full lore section.